Hey, welcome back to Cool Classics. Today we're going to take a look at the life and career of Carolyn Jones, best known for her role on the Addams Family playing Morticia Addams. I got some cool clips, some freaky facts, and a lot of this came directly from her sister Betty. Yep, she did a few interviews over the years and she told some really personal stuff. She was born Carolyn Sue Jones, April 28, 1930 in Amarillo, Texas. Her mother was a huge fan of movies, and she had just seen a film starring Carole Lombard, and so that's why she named her daughter Carolyn. Then later, she had another daughter and named her Betty after Betty Davis. Her father, Julius, was a barber and had his own shop, but the Great Depression forced him to close, and after that he struggled to find work. Eventually, by the mid-30s, he just up and ran away and abandoned his family. That's when her mother Chloe had to take both girls and move back in with her parents. Carolyn was a very sickly child. She suffered from severe asthma, and the treatments back then really didn't help at all, so she spent most of her time in the house. But her grandparents would take them out once a week to go see a movie, and when she'd come home, she'd spend the rest of her time reading her mom's Hollywood fan magazines, and that's when she realized she wanted to be an actress too. By the time she was in high school, she had already made up her mind. She was going to Hollywood, but none of the other kids in the drama class were really taking it seriously, and this frustrated her. When she was around the house, Carolyn was constantly talking about how she needed to be out in California studying at the Pasadena Playhouse because that's where they make great actresses. After a couple of years of hearing all about this, her grandfather sat her down one evening and told her that if she can get her grades and her drama skills up high enough that she can be accepted into the school, he will find a way to pay the tuition. Well, she did, and they accepted her. At the age of 17, she moved to California and enrolled at the Pasadena Playhouse. She said these were magical times for her. Everyone there was so creative and passionate, you couldn't help but feel great things were coming. Carolyn also started performing at Stock Theater and being paid for her performances. She saved every penny of it, and 3 years later when she graduated with honors, she took all of that money and spent it on the one thing that she felt would hold her back, her nose. She had it reconstructed. After she was all healed up, she started to perform at the Players Ring Theater, and in the audience one night was a talent scout for Paramount Pictures. He invited her for a screen test, and she nailed it. They signed her to a 6-month contract. A few months later, she got a small role, which is her film debut, with Edmund O'Brien and William Holden in The Turning Point.
His questioning of Miss Lillian Smith, former lady friend of Roy Ackerman.
And you gave a series of parties here in the city?
I didn't give any parties. Some fellas gave parties. If I give parties, I gotta pay for them. Why should I do that when the parties are for fellas?
Did Roy Ackerman come to any of these parties?
That schmo, I wouldn't even have him around. 15,000, 20,000, more or less. How should I know? I don't know much about money. I just use it for spending.
Where did you get the money?
From fellas. Where else? That's a silly question.
Now, her sister said that her and her family went and watched the movie in the theaters, and then when they came home, they all celebrated and danced around the living room. They were so excited about it. After that, Paramount used her 2 more times that same year in movies, Road to Bali and Off Limits. But then the studio ran into financial trouble. Actually, a lot of studios did. Television was coming in strong, and this was decreasing the sales of movie tickets. So they made a lot of cuts, from secretaries in the front office to contracts that weren't long-term. And so her 6-month contract was dropped. This is when her sister moved to California to live with her to help pay half of her rent while she was trying to find more work. So Carolyn decided to try out for television herself. But at first, all she could get was stuff like Pepsi-Cola Playhouse, Colgate Theater, and some of the other smaller shows of the time. Here's a clip of one that I found that was pretty good.
And in the wintertime, we move some of these kennels inside to take care of the new litters. That's when we'll have a lot of work to do.
Roy, are you sure about this? Are you sure you want to marry me?
I wouldn't have asked you if I wasn't sure.
Are you going to be happy married to me?
I've waited all my life for somebody like you, Judy. Somebody I could take care of, make a home for.
That's why I'm worried, Roy. When a kid falls in love for the first time, it doesn't matter if he gets hurt. You know I don't really love you.
Now, the television work was very sporadic, so she ended up becoming a regular performer at Preston Sturges Theater in Hollywood. This is where she met and fell in love with a young man who was also from Texas. He was an aspiring actor and playwright. His name was Aaron Spelling. Her sister said they were madly in love. They were like playful puppies who always rolled around and laid on each other. Aaron desperately wanted to marry her, but he felt so insecure because he didn't have any money. Work was very scarce for all three of them living in the apartment. Her sister calls it the peanut butter years. All they had was peanut butter, crackers, and bread. And if they were going to entertain anybody, you had that and some water, and we could play cards. That's all we could do. But then in 1953, Carolyn auditions for a part in a movie and she gets the role. The studios were trying to come up with a way to get people back into the theaters, so they invented 3D technology. And the second ever movie released was called House of Wax. And Carolyn is in here. Check her out.
I want a waist like Anna Hill's. If I pull it any tighter, you're not going to be able to breathe. Oh, that's all right. As my late friend Maddie used to say, if a girl don't watch her figure, the man won't.
Maddie, where's your new friend going to take you tonight?
The Hoffman House for dinner, and then to Tony Pastor's for the vaudeville show.
Is he nice?
Oh, awfully nice. A real gentleman, except when he's had a couple of drinks in him. That's to be expected.
Later that same year, Carolyn couldn't wait any longer. She proposed to Aaron, and of course he accepted, and the two of them were married in 1953. Now, with all of the exposure of being in this big hit 3D movie, Carolyn was being asked to audition for more movie roles, and one of them was for the movie From Here to Eternity. The producer wanted her to play the part of Elma, and he scheduled her a screen test for the next day. Unfortunately, she got sick overnight. Here she is with her husband, Aaron, and they're talking about it on television.
I didn't know at the time, Ralph, how really seriously ill Carolyn was. Gee, all I could think of was, boy, honey, you gotta test it, you know. But we took her temperature, and she had 104 fever, so we took her to the hospital. And that night, she nearly died of pneumonia.
By the time Carolyn recovered, filming was already underway. They had chose Donna Reed to play the part, and she went on to win an Oscar for her performance. Carolyn was worried that she had just missed her big break, but she didn't give up. Here she is in 1954 in the movie Desiree.
You've already found a companion in Paris.
Yes, by a happy chance. The moment Citizeness Desiree and I saw one another, we fell into each other's arms.
Well, old friend or not, my dear, you're going to have to share it with us. Come along, I want to show you the most fantastic.
And the very next year, she appears in the film The 7-Year Itch.
Soon they'll be taking out your stitches, and I'll have lost you forever.
Please, Miss Finch. There is such a thing as ethics. You are a registered nurse.
Ethics. Once I had ethics. Once I was young. Once I had ideals. Once I was registered.
Then in 1956, she appears in 3 films: The Opposite Sex, The Man Who Knew Too Much, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
They're like huge seed pods.
This must be the way that body in my closet was formed.
Not until you fell asleep. Miles, when the change does take place, do you suppose there's any difference?
There must be.
They have to be destroyed. All of them.
They will be. Every one of them. Well, I'm going to stay right here where I can watch them.
I'm going to stay with you.
And don't call the police! Nick Rivet didn't find any body on a burning haystack.
Man, that's crazy. I just watched that movie in 2020, and I didn't even recognize her. It had to have been the blonde hair that threw me off. And speaking of hair, The very next year, 1957, she appears in the movie The Bachelor Party, and for this role, she cut her hair really short and dyed it black. She went on to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, but this new look opened up a lot more possibilities. The same year, she appeared in the movie Johnny Trouble and Babyface Nelson.
You want to call it quits?
No. I went into this thing knowing the score. Knowing our time was running out fast.
Let's hope it keeps on running. Slow.
From there, Carolyn started to appear in at least 2 or 3 movies per year. They might not have been the biggest blockbusters, but she was definitely the lead actress in them. She was also very supportive of her husband. Anytime she could pitch one of his stories to a studio executive or one of the directors, she would always go out of her way to make sure it was done. She was his biggest cheerleader.
What ultimatum did you give to Aaron?
I said, either you use your God-given talent as a writer and become a writer and anything else you want to be from there on, or I leave you.
Well, it worked, and Aaron started to get jobs writing for television shows. Now, Carolyn was appearing 2 or 3 times a year in movies, but she was also appearing 5 or 6 times on television. Things like Dragnet. She was on there 5 times.
When's the last time you saw Hopkins?
About 10 days, 2 weeks ago. What's this all about, officer? You're looking for Charlie?
How's he usually contact you, by phone?
Well, I don't know. Why are you looking for him? Can't you tell me?
Routine investigation, miss. We want him.
Well, why? Can't you give me a reason?
This is one of the reasons, Laura. Would you look at this picture?
You know where he stays now?
No, I'll find out, though.
How do you mean?
Supposed to meet him out on Wilshire and La Brea.
When's that?
8 o'clock tomorrow night.
She was on Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which you can see on the screen right now. She was also on Burke's Law 2 times. This episode is called Who Killed Sweet Betsy? She plays 3 different characters. I'm telling you, she's a master of disguise. No wonder I didn't recognize her.
Hey, Gil! It's booze time! All for you, Hot Eyes.
I'll take some milk.
No little drinky for you?
Never touch it. Sweet Betsy. I think you're drunk.
Batter up.
Miss Richards?
Hello there.
Betsy.
No, I married him. My sister Betsy's out someplace.
She went to the beach.
Uh-huh. So she's the one who stole my picnic lunch.
Did you make the picnic lunch?
Down to the last deviled egg. I hope it choked her.
Did you make the martinis, too?
What martinis?
Oh, so little sister Betsy went and got herself murdered. How square.
We don't know that it's murder, Mrs. Manning. It could be suicide.
Oh, Captain, you take all the excitement out of it.
Aren't you and your drab sisters identical?
Not at all, Captain. We used to be when we were children. We used to dress alike and think alike and act alike.
Were you in your room all day, Mrs. Manning?
I spend a good deal of my time in bed, Captain.
And here she is in 1963 on Wagon Train, episode The Molly Kincaid Story. I know the quality isn't that great, but you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. It's hard to find this stuff. In this one, she plays a woman who got her face disfigured, but what I found interesting is this is the first time that I seen her with long black hair out of everything that I looked up with her. Now, I'm sure it was a wig, but just 1 year later, you know what happens.
Now, honey, come on, tell me your name. Look, I'm Kate Crowley, and I'm your friend. Now, you got a name, ain't you?
Molly.
Molly. There. See how pretty you look.
No. I looked in a mirror once years ago. I don't ever want to do that again.
Now, in October of 1963, just 1 month after that Wagon Train episode aired, Carolyn and Aaron filed for separation. Aaron's career had really taken off. Between that and Carolyn's work schedule, the two of them hardly seen each other for a whole year. Now, this didn't mean that they didn't care for each other or wouldn't help each other. In fact, it was Aaron that was talking to Doug Kramer from ABC, and Doug told him that ABC had this show called The Addams Family all cast, but they were worried that they didn't have a big star name on the production. Aaron asked him who they were going to have play the lead female role, and Doug said that David Levy had hired Joan Huntington to play the lead actress. Now, Joan had done a lot of westerns like Bonanza and Branded. She was also on Burke's Law a whole bunch of times, but she still wasn't a big star, so Aaron suggested that they give Carolyn a shot. After all, it was just a few years ago that Carolyn was co-starring with Elvis Presley. Doug was like, "You mean your ex-wife?" And Aaron was like, "Yeah, I think she'll be great." And so Doug went ahead and took this to David Levy, and David was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm already in pre-production with Joan here. She's my lead actress." But he felt the pressure from ABC, and so he agreed to have a meeting with Carolyn. And he said, "If she doesn't knock my socks off, we're not going to change right now." So Aaron told Carolyn. Carolyn showed up. The meeting went well, and they ran through some lines, went down to the set, had her get in costume, and oh boy, did she knock his socks off. David said she was amazing. It was a whole different style than anyone else they had tried out. The same lines, the same concept, but her mannerisms. She was Morticia.
Darling, I've just had the most marvelous idea about the Digby house. You know those big bay windows in the library? I'm going to have them all cemented in, walled up.
You think they'll like that?
Mrs. Digby will. No window washer. Hungry? Oh, how handsome you both look. As Grandpa Squint Addams used to say about Cousin Blob, 2 heads are better than 1.
Speaking of her mannerisms, one of the things that always stood out to me as a child was how she interacted with her children. It seemed like she was a lot of fun. She was also very comforting and nurturing to them. She didn't let anybody spank them. She seemed like a really good mother.
What if Mr. Hilliard doesn't come?
Angel, your father sent Lurch for Mr. Hilliard, and it's very difficult for people to refuse Lurch. Now, let me see your hands. Oh, excellent, Pugsley. The nails are nice and clean and sharp. And you did very well, too, Wednesday, darling.
Morticia Gomez, this child has got to be whacked.
We do not go around whacking people in this house.
She's been shooting off all of my dynamite caps.
Darling, you have dynamite caps of your own.
But they're not any fun. They just go poop.
I prefer a punishment that will leave an impression on her mind.
Excellent thinking, my dear.
For the next 2 weeks, you are forbidden, absolutely forbidden to play with your pet spider.
May seem harsh, Wednesday, but you'll be a better person for it. You may go now.
I just love to hear the sound of children at play.
They're really having a go at it today.
And what about her chemistry with John Astin, who played Gomez? That's something you cannot teach. It's either there or it's not, and it was there.
Besides, she squeezes harder than that boa constrictor I got you for your last birthday.
I can sympathize with her. I know how irresistible you are. You need be jealous of no one. I've been yours since that first day you carved my initials in your leg.
I have been yours since the day I first saw you riding the side saddle on a buffalo. Now the bullfrog, Tish. Bullfrog, it drives me wild. Come to me.
Now on the show, Morticia has a sister named Ophelia Frump, and so Carolyn played that part too. Yep, she got to continue on being the master of disguise. Carolyn said she loved being on the show, And she loved doing all the personal appearances too, although it could be kind of exhausting because the outfit that she wore, she had to be sewn into the dress. You know, like walking across the floor real slow or having to like spin to get somewhere, that was because the dress was so tight. And, you know, she didn't mind that, along with the hair and the makeup and everything. It was really fun for her, and she talked great about everyone on the show, the entire cast.
It would be proper for you to curtsy.
Curtsy?
Yes, let's try it.
In this dress?
I see what you mean.
Just are very striking in that outfit, but I understand that it takes you a couple of hours to get out of it.
Yes, it does, because I have to get the wig undone and the makeup off, and it takes about 20 minutes to get out of the dress.
Now, Carolyn went on to appear in all 64 episodes of the Addams Family, and after the series ended, she ended up on the Batman TV series, appearing 5 times as Marsha, the Queen of Diamonds. She had the ability to make anyone and everyone fall in love with her and do her bidding.
The Queen of Diamonds.
Thank you, darling. You're doing very well so far.
All I ask is the chance to be near you, Marsha. To bask in the light of your adorable presence.
Yes. No! He's mine.
You adorable creature. I'm yours to command.
Stop that annoying fellow in the blue cape.
Stop it, Batman. Marsha says stop it. Do you hear? Do you hear?
Now, around this time, things started to slow down for her. She really couldn't find steady work. So instead, she decided to focus on her singing, which she always loved to do. And she had been taking lessons with Herbert Green, who was a Tony Award-winning composer and vocal coach. And the two of them got really close. In fact, they got married in 1968. And after that, Carolyn really only appeared on television a couple more times, and those were on game shows. Here she is on Password.
This is the sparkling motion picture actress and delightful television star, Carolyn Jones.
Thank you. This is my partner, Irma Shore, from Los Angeles.
Carolyn, you've got an interesting hobby. What are you doing these days?
I'm raising French poodles at the moment.
How many do you have?
Well, my standard French poodle, Beauty,
Yes?
had 5.
5 standards.
And they're the cutest things. They're like this big.
Oh, we have poodles. They're great dogs.
Adorable.
Great dogs.
Adorable.
Now, her sister said that Herbert was very controlling right off the bat, and he talked Carolyn into retiring from acting at age 39 and moving to Palm Springs with him. She said that's when he took full control over Carolyn and had her cut ties systematically with everyone, friends, family. There was like no connection anywhere other than with him, and they would go a whole year without hearing from her. This continued for 7 years, all the way till 1976, when Carolyn ran away from him, filed for divorce, and moved back in with friends in Los Angeles. She said she felt like she had been a prisoner. She wanted to get back into acting, but she was worried that she'd been away too long. She was now 47 years old. What roles could she play? Well, in 1977, she landed a role in the TV miniseries Roots, playing Miss Moore.
Welcome, Mr. Bennett. Welcome to our home. Of course, it's not nearly so fine as what you're used to.
Well, a smile like yours will make any house a mansion, Miss Moore.
Oh, for heaven's sake. You must be weary after your long journey. Won't you step inside and rest yourself?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm much obliged.
I'm feeling kind of sluggish myself. You don't mind if I take a walk and enjoy a cigar?
Of course not.
I may be a while. If you're feeling tired, you needn't wait up for me.
Tom, don't catch anything on your walk.
That series was so impactful that anyone who played on it was suddenly in demand. Before you knew it, she was appearing on the Wonder Woman TV series multiple times, playing Diana's mother, Queen Hippolyta.
You will release my men and take off those bracelets, or this old woman will die.
Ladies, ignore him. I beg of you.
Daughter, I command you.
I mean what I say.
I know you do. Captain Radel,
Madame?
did I understand you to call me an old woman?
You did.
Or you could admit defeat by an old woman and drop your gun.
That same year, 1977, she appeared in Halloween with the new Addams Family, which was like a family reunion for her.
How do you do, sir? I understand you've come to assess.
Yes. My name is Grimm.
Grimm? What a lovely name. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Run along. If you'd like ribs for lunch, I'm sure Mama can dig up a spare whalebone for you.
Around this time, Carolyn also returned to stage work, and while there, she met a fellow cast member named Peter Bailey-Britton, and the two of them dated for the next 5 years. Besides her theater work, Carolyn was still regularly appearing on television shows, and quite a few of these shows were produced by her ex-husband, Aaron Spelling. Which really isn't a shocker. What would have been more shocking is if she could have avoided one of his shows, because he has hundreds of TV show creation credits. He's also the executive producer on many that you know. Well, heck, executive producer, we're talking hundreds. Fantasy Island, Starsky and Hutch, TJ Hooker, Hotel, it just goes on and on. Here's just a few that he personally created that you might know by name. Mod Squad, The Rookies, Charlie's Angels, Love Boat, Heart to Heart, Dynasty, Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, Seventh Heaven, Charmed. The list is amazing. Aaron had gotten remarried in 1968 to Candy Marer, and the two of them had a son named Randy and a daughter named Tori Spelling, which you may know because she's a famous actress herself. Aaron passed away June 23, 2006, at the age of 83. He holds the record as the most prolific television producer in U.S. television history. And for years, he continued to be ranked in the Forbes Top 10 list of deceased celebrity earners. Carolyn continued to work on television, and her relationship with Peter grew into a true, loving romance. But then in 1981, she started to suffer from severe stomach pains. After some tests were performed, it was determined that she had colon cancer. She quickly underwent surgery to have it removed and started to receive chemo and radiation therapy. After about a year, it was determined that her cancer had went into remission. She started to feel a little bit better, and she landed a role on the new daytime soap opera called Capital.
As you probably know, our sons are going to run against each other in the next congressional election. Keep Tyler out of it, Clarissa. Politics is a tough game. Tyler could get hurt.
Oh, I know. I haven't forgotten that you ruined my father's political career, and I would expect that you're going to try to do the same thing to Tyler.
Keep your precious son at home.
She really enjoyed being on the show. They got to be on the air 5 days a week. This was something that she was excited about doing for years and years. But then she got the news. Her cancer had returned very aggressively. She didn't have much time left. Carolyn and Peter decided to spend the rest of their time together as happy as they could be, so they planned a wedding. This wedding would be a celebration of life with no talk of illness. Everyone was invited from their pasts, family, friends, celebrities they've worked with, and everybody showed up. Now, sadly, in July of 1983, Carolyn fell into a coma. She ended up passing away on August 3rd, 1983. In her will, she stated how she loved playing Morticia and that she had kept her costume and wig this entire time. She donated them to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Wow, what an amazing story. She was the best person to have play that part. I loved her as Morticia. And you know, it was refreshing to hear that her and her first husband stayed close enough that they would help each other when they could. If you're a fan of the Addams Family, click on my video of Ted Cassidy who played Lurch. You won't regret it. Leave me a comment down below and give me a like. Cool Classics, I'll be back in the future.